Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening, downloading, and subscribing to the latest edition of the 12 Kyle podcast. I'm 12 Kyle, but you found me, so you probably already know that by now. If you haven't done so already, make sure that you subscribe to this podcast. You can find the podcast just about anywhere. We're on iTunes, Stitcher Radio, SoundCloud, Overcast FM, Google Play, and YouTube. And of course, you can catch me on Twitter at 12Kyle, the number 12, Kyle. You can follow me also at 12Kyle Podcast. And of course, you can catch me on Instagram at 12Kyle Podcast. And I also have a Facebook page, facebook.com/ spell it out, TWELVEKYLE. So there's no reason not to subscribe to this podcast. All right. On this particular podcast, I got a story for you. I got a story about a crazy chick, and I think you just might like it. So sit back, relax, get your popcorn ready. I'm going to drop the theme music, and we'll get this podcast cracking. Let's get it. Welcome back. It's your boy 12 Kyle. This is the 12 Kyle podcast. Once again, thanks for listening. As I mentioned at the top, I have a story about a crazy chick, right? I guess I should start my story off by saying, I am someone who really has done a pretty good job of avoiding drama. I just don't do drama. I never have, even as a youngster growing up. And even as an adult, I really don't do drama. I don't bring drama to people, and people, subsequently don't bring drama to me. So, it's kind of worked out like that. Maybe it's respect. I don't know. I don't know what it is. Maybe that's just how I kick it. So I never really got down like that. And more in particular, never had drama with women. I guess it's because it goes back to maybe a level of respect. I don't know. I just never had, you have your breakups and things, and I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about just the drama, you know what I mean? Just dealing with people that, probably don't have it all, or maybe they come at you sideways or what have you. So it got me to thinking about story, something that happened to me, man. It had to be it was years ago. This was it had to be like 98 maybe. Wasn't married, as I am now. so I can tell this story in its entirety. But yeah, it was kind of crazy when you think about it, because, again, I'm not someone who does drama. So I'm not necessarily, because I guess maybe to some degree, because I don't do drama, maybe I don't necessarily see drama when it's coming. Anyway, so it's 98. I just moved to Atlanta from South Carolina. I went to school at South Carolina State University, graduated, moved here to Atlanta, Georgia in the summer of 97. And so this is 98, young bachelor, pocket full of money. I was kicking it. I was hanging out, having a good time, enjoying the life as any young man would. So I was new to the city, and other than my boy Jay Fresh, who moved here with me, I didn't know anybody. And it was kind of weird to be in a space where you're in this major city and you don't know anybody, but I was going out having a good time and kicking it. So through that, you got a chance to meet people and things of that nature. So I was at work one day, and I'll never forget it. My supervisor, and I've told this story before on my blog, but none of you read my blog, so it doesn't matter. I can tell it again. So one day I'm at work, and my supervisor at the time, he advised me that that we would be entertaining some clients for lunch. And to be honest, that particular day, I didn't feel like going out with the clients, because I'm really I really have never been the type of cat that really wants to do lunch with the coworkers and people. Because here's the thing. Because a lot of times you go to lunch with your coworkers, what do they end up talking about? Work. How lame is that? I don't want to be at work, then leave work to talk about work, and then come back and work. Nah, I don't want to do that. So anyway, so I wasn't really happy about this meeting or whatever that we were going to be having with these clients. And at that particular time, I knew, pretty much what it was going to be. Us sitting around, people talking about the stock market, how their stocks were doing, what they should invest in, yada, yada, yada. I didn't want to hear all that. I mean, I got that at the office. But nonetheless, I didn't want to go, but I went anyway. So we get there, clients come in or whatever, we're sitting down talking, and usually at that particular time, man, when we would have, especially when we would entertain clients, it was just, mostly white men. Every now and then be white women, rare, and sometimes black men, but never be a sister, never a black woman coming into these meetings. And this particular day, a black woman came in, and not only was I was surprised to see a black woman, but she looked good. I was like, yo, who is that? Because at first when they sat down, I'm thinking, I wasn't even really paying attention. I think I was kind of looking away, and I thought maybe she just walked in with them, and then she walked in and sat down. I was like, okay, that's what's up. I was like, oh, who is that? So anyway, we get to talking, everybody introduces themselves, so forth and so on, and we're talking about business. And she talking to my supervisor, and she finally makes her way over to me, and she told me her name was Tony. We introduced ourselves, and like I said, these meetings normally consisted of men, so I was very surprised to see a black woman at that in one of these lunch meetings. But I was cool. I was happy to see her. And again, I'm new to the city, so here's a chance for me to, kind of network and get to know somebody outside of, the little networking circle that I just built up in the short time that I've been in the city. So, during the meeting, we sat next to each other. She, we kind of started talking or whatever. She told me that she graduated from Spelman. She was in the master's program at Georgia Tech. That particular day, I was rocking my championship football ring that I won at South Carolina State, where we were the national black college champions, and from '94. Shout out to SC State. And so, she asked me, where did I play football at? I told her, and you tell people sometimes, and you don't think they're going to know what you're talking about. And she was like, she knew exactly where South Carolina State was, and she told me she was a big football fan. So I was like, oh, that's what's up. So we started talking about football and things of that nature. So that was something that we had in common. So I was like, okay, cool. And like, man, she's, after, the meeting was, as the meeting was winding down, I was kind of thinking to myself, like, yo, she's really, really nice. And again, her name was Tony. I don't know if I told you guys that. Her name is Tony. So I'm like, yo, Tony's mad cool. She's, obviously in business. She's cute. She's college educated. She's, football fan. I mean, hey, this is cool. Now, full disclosure, I had just gotten out of a relationship, just broken up with my girl. So I wasn't, I wasn't looking for nothing, right? So, and I didn't feel the need to have to say that, because, I mean, this is an informal meeting. So at the conclusion of the meeting, she asked for my phone number. Right. She asked for my phone number. I mean, she didn't ask for my work number. Well, I think I gave her my card. So she, my business, my work number is on my card, but she asked for my personal phone number, and I think at this time it was bugged out was I didn't have a cell. I have a cell phone at the time. I gave her my house phone, and I know I had a pager back then because pagers was rocking. Yeah, I was like the last dude to get a cell phone. I had a pager for a long time. I don't think I got a cell phone until like 99. But that's another story for another day. So anyway, she gave me a number. And I took her number because I really wanted to get to know as many people as I could. And I figured, okay, well, hey, she's, and I can't remember if she said she was from Atlanta or not, but she had spent, obviously, a considerable amount of time in Atlanta. She's been in Atlanta longer than I have. So I was like, okay, hey, this would be cool to get to know somebody, network, the whole nine, So so when she asked for my number, I kind of paused for a second, but then I was like, what could it hurt? And I was a free agent. So, so anything can happen. So like I said, so we exchanged numbers or whatever like that. So, and I will be honest with you guys. And here's something that I didn't tell you that my boys have told me for years growing up. They always said like, yo, if somebody likes you, you're oblivious to it. Like, and my thing is like, you're supposed to like me. I'm I'm dope. So, but they were like, yo, women like you, but you like, one of my boys said like, yo, a woman basically has to spell it out, for you to understand. He was like, because you always, sometimes you're just oblivious to certain things. And I mean, my thing is, if you like somebody, you tell them, because that's the way I always operate. If I like you, I'm gonna tell you. I ain't gonna hint around and beat around the bush or anything like that. That's not my steez. That's not how I kick it. But anyway, so that's an important caveat. So I'm not really, as I get Tony's phone number, I'm not thinking that, she likes me or I like her. So anyway, I think like maybe a couple of days later passed, Tony gives me a call and we talk on the phone, and we talked on the phone for like 2 hours. And I was really, which was cool for me because I like to talk. I mean, I don't know if you guys listen to this podcast, but I like to talk. But nonetheless, so we got to be, and it was weird because the conversation started out very professional. We talked about business and the whole nine. And then she made the conversation personal. She was asking, I think she asked me, did I have a girlfriend or was I seeing anybody or something like that? Our relationship status, likes and dislikes. She asked about previous relationships. And so it was, it's kind of weird because it went from professional to personal, really quick. And I wasn't and again, I'm just broke up my girl. So I'm not really in that space to necessarily be entertaining. But I was like, hey, I'm a free agent. So, you got to get out there and, I'm a man of the people. So, I got to touch the people. I got to touch the people. Right. So nonetheless, so we talked for like 2 hours, and then like the next day she called me. We talked again for 2 hours, and this is weird for me because normally, even though I like to talk, I'm not necessarily talking to somebody I just met for like two hours. Nonetheless, a few more days passed. We talked again, and again, it was a long conversation. And a couple more days passed. I didn't call her, and none of this time. Like, she always called me, which was cool. It wasn't that I wasn't going to call. She beat me to it, really. So after that, she called me one day at work, and I was busy, and I just didn't get a chance to call her back or whatever. And I left my desk, came back when I was at lunch, I had 2 voicemails. Both of the voicemails were from Tony. And now, I mean, there were voicemails like back to back. Like, one voicemail was at like 12:30. The next voicemail was like 12:35. I mean, if you leave somebody one voicemail, do you really have to leave them another voicemail? I mean, where do they do that at? I mean, I don't get down like that. If I leave you a voicemail, that's it. It's all good. I don't have to. That's it. I don't need to. I'll say what I need to say on one voicemail. Nonetheless, so she left me 2 voicemails while I was at work. I wasn't sure why she called, but I was really, really swamped at work that day. So I didn't get a chance to return her phone calls. And I never forget it because I worked late that day. It was a Friday, and I never work late on a Friday. Friday is usually 4:59. I'm out the door. That particular day, I think I worked till like 7. Right. So it's Friday. like late that evening, my boy Jay Fresh, who I'd moved to Atlanta with, he called me. He's like, yo, let's hang out. He had already told me about this party spot that he wanted to hit. I was like, all right, bet, let's do it. I was like, I just need to go home, get fresh, and we can do it. And he was like, all right, I'll come scoop you, whatever. So I was like, all right, bet. So I got home, I got home at 7:30, changed clothes. I checked my caller ID box. And this is show you how old school it was. I checked the caller ID box because back then, you didn't have, they were just making portable phones with call ID on it. I had a caller ID box the way you could tell, who's calling or whatever. So I looked at it and I noticed that Tony's phone number, she had called me 5 times. 5 times. What do you need to call somebody 5 times for, right? So, and all the while I'm like, okay, that's strange. That's kind of weird. This is, and I'm not thinking like, yo, something's not right. But I'm just thinking like, okay, why would she call me 5 times? Like, so I didn't even really understand what was going on. So I was like, okay, cool. So I got myself ready, sat down on the couch, and she called. Now keep in mind, she called 5 times, but she did not leave a message. And I found that to be weird. So I sat down on the couch, I'm chilling, watching TV, waiting for Jay Fresh to come through. And all of a sudden, I heard a knock at the door. And I was like, that's weird, because the only person that knew where I lived was Jay Fresh. And again, I'm in a city. I don't have a lot of friends at this particular point in time. And Jay Fresh didn't call me to say like, yo, I'm on the, because normally he would call and be like, yo, I'm on the way. Or he'll page me and like, I'm on the way. And so I'm sitting there. There's a knock at the door. Nobody knows where I lived. I live in a gated complex. And that's a whole nother story in and of itself where I lived. And I'll tell you about that in a second. So I didn't know who it was. So I didn't even, and to be honest, how crazy I was, like I didn't even look through the peephole. I just opened the door. So I go to open the door. It's Tony. Whoa. So I'm like, Tony, what are you doing here? And I didn't even open the door all the way. I kind of, had the door kind of ajar because I wasn't sure who I was going to, open the door to. And she was like, well, hi, you told me that you lived on Candler Road. She was like, I was in the area, so I just figured I'd stop by and see you. That should have been red flag number 2, 3, or 4, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Anyway, so I said, well, how did you get into the gate? She was like, oh, the gate was broken. I drove around and I saw your car. I saw an old man outside. He told me where you lived. Huh? So I'm like, oh yeah, that's my man Amos. He lives upstairs. And I was like, so why are you here? And she was like, well, I just figured you might want to hang with me tonight. Do you want to go to dinner or something? I was like, so my head is really racing at this point because I don't know why she's here. I don't know how she got there because I didn't live in the best of neighborhoods. Just to put it simple. If you're familiar with Atlanta, if you're familiar with Decatur, where it's greater, I lived on Candler Road. And for those of you listening who aren't familiar with Candler Road, if you're listening and you're familiar with Candler Road, you do know that Candler Road is the hood. I lived across from the South DeKalb Mall, across the street from, I think, was it East Lake Meadows Apartments? I think that's the name of it. Now, those apartments were worse than apartments where I lived. And it was one of those situations where you ever lived someplace or been someplace where it was really, really bad, but you didn't understand how bad it was until you got away from it. So like when I lived there, it's kind of weird because like when I lived there, I didn't really view it as the hood. But once I moved away, that's when I realized like, yo, you really in the hood. You were in the hood. Not the rap hood, but the hood. I mean, like, it was but it was cool. It was cool. I actually liked it. I mean, there was no gunshots or anything other than, 4th of July and New Year's Eve. Other than that, there were no gunshots. And no, I never got my spot broken into or anything like that. My man Amos upstairs, he lived there for like 30 years. So it was all good, and it was cheap. I mean, my rent was like, I think my rent was like $350. But anyway, let me get back on the story. So anyway, I'm still at this point, I'm trying to figure out like, how did she get here? How did she like, my head is spinning at this point. And so she was like, I was like, so I'm kind of stalling at this point. So she says, you don't want to hang with me? And then she said, is somebody in there? And but when she says that, she's kind of peeking inside she's trying to look over my shoulder look around in my apartment to see if anybody's inside. Like if I had company or something. I mean, come on. If I had company, I'm not even answering the damn door. But that's another story for another day. But she's looking around my apartment as if she was my mom. So I kind of opened the door a little bit so she could look and see. And I was like, nah, it's not that. I was like, I'm supposed to be hanging with Jay Fresh tonight. He just broke up with his girl and he needed somebody to talk to. It's not a good time. I was like, I'll call you later. And I kind of pushed, nudged, edged her out of the door, the door of my apartment, so that I could close the door. And I was like, all right, I'll talk to you later. And she was like, okay. And so she turned and walked away. And so I closed the door, locked it, and I think she heard the lock too. And so I was just like dumbfounded, like, yo, I mean, like I just met, I literally have only known this chick for like maybe a week, right? And so I just really couldn't understand why she was blowing up my spot. I mean, like we talked on the phone for like 4, maybe 5 hours, 6 hours, I don't know. But, there were great conversations, but, that wasn't worthy of her popping in to see me, if you will. So she walks away, she leaves, whatever. 10 minutes later, my phone is ringing. It's Tony. I don't answer the phone, and she leaves me a nasty voicemail. And she said, Kyle, this is Tony. I don't know what your problem is. I thought you were different, but you're just like the rest of these men around here. You didn't even have enough manners to walk me out to my car. You ain't shit. You just like the rest of them. Click. How did we get here? I really don't know how we got to this point. And like, at this point, I'm not even sure how or why. What would make her come see me and just blow up my spot like that? And I was dumbfounded. Like, and I'm like, okay, well, she's a business colleague, and I may have to run back into her at work. I was like, this is just awkward. So Jay Fresh eventually comes through. Me and him, we hit the spot. We have a good time, and I'm telling him, he's dying laughing. He's like, man, she is crazy. He's like, man, that chick crazy. She's crazy. He's like, you ain't see the sign? I was like, what signs? He was like, man, she was feeling you. I was like, how? I was like, we were just on the phone for a couple of hours. That's it. He was like, dude, she was liking you, and you missed all of the signs. I was like, I'm sorry. I don't do crazy. I just don't. I never have. So we laughed about it or whatever like that. And I just, it was mind-boggling to me that someone would even venture off into an apartment complex on Candler Road, that is straight hood, and then, just come to somebody's house. So fast forward, maybe about 4 years later. At this point in time, I'm married. The girl who I'd broken up with was my then girlfriend, now wife. So we're together. And one day, we had our oldest son. He was our only son at the time, Dion. Dion had to be he was almost 3. And my wife asked me to go to the grocery store. I was like, all right, cool. So I went to the grocery store, and I just took Dion with me because that's what we used to do. I used to always take Dion with me to the store. And so I go to the grocery store, and I got him in the little shopping cart, and we're pushing and we're laughing and stuff. And lo and behold, I'm pushing him down the aisle, and I see Tony. And she's like, hey, Kyle. I was like, oh, shit. In fact, I said it just like, I was like, oh, shit. And Dion kind of looked at me like, you know you ain't supposed to be cussing, right? Not that he knew that I cussed, but still. And so she walked over. I said, hey, what's going on? What's going on? How are you? And she was like, I'm good. She was like, long time no see. I was like, yeah, I'm good. And so she was like, is this your son? I was like, yeah, this is my son, Dion. And she was like, hi, Dion. And I said, Dion, this is, and I drew a blank. I forgot her name just for a split second. I was like, Dion, this is Miss. She's like, Miss Tony. And she gave me the dirtiest look, y'all, for real. I was like, oh, damn, I forgot her name. So I was like, well, it's so nice seeing you. And I walked off. And so that was awkward as hell, right? So what brings this story to a close is just the other day, I was in the same grocery store. And guess who I saw? Tony. She didn't see me, but I saw her. But trust me, when I saw her, I turned around and walked in the opposite direction. And I made sure that she was out of that store before I moved anywhere. I can't do crazy chicks, man. I just can't. I can't. So that's the moral of the story is, man, stay away from crazy people. Even if you don't know you have to pay attention to the signs. I, for one, am bad with signs. So I have to do a better job of, recognizing the signs of crazy. Hopefully you're doing it a whole lot better than I do. Thanks again for checking out another edition of the 12 Kyle podcast. I'm your boy 12 Kyle. I'll catch you guys next time. 5 G's.